I think it's important as to what type of world we leave our children and grandchildren. So I've written down some notes on some things that I think are really important for us to look at. First of all, I want to talk about the fertility rate in the world today. In what we'd call Western civilization, Europe, the United States, the average fertility rate is about 1.6. That means that we're not even replacing ourselves. Now, of the Muslim immigrants that are moving to Europe, Canada, and the United States, the fertility rate is about 8. Now, that means that in a very short period of time, that Europe, and then later on Canada, and a little later, if current trends continue, those will be Muslim countries. So our children and grandchildren will grow up in a Muslim country. Now it's important to ask, what is Islam, the religion that Muslims follow? And it's just not like other religions. Muhammad was not like Buddha or the Dalai Lama, somebody that just talked about peace and love. Muhammad was a warlord. He was much more like the Viking barbarians, Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan. He put together an army and he went from village to village, town to town, and he conquered. And when he did that, he would murder, rape, and steal. That's what Muhammad did his whole life. And so that's very important to understand. Muhammad took great pleasure in torturing people to death in horrible ways. He also enslaved people. And, you know, we look at communism, and I know young people today don't really realize this, but in 100 years, communism has murdered about 90 million people. Well, now Islam has been around for about 1,400 years. And in that 1,400 years, Islam has murdered about 270 million people. Now, it's interesting to note that the majority of those people that Islam murdered were Muslims. Now, they've also killed Hindus and Buddhists and Jews and Christians, but the majority of people killed by Islam have been Muslims. Now, it's important to understand the doctrines of Islam. One of the most important is that Muhammad was the closest thing we'll ever see to a perfect man. So if you want to be a perfect man, what you need to do is copy the behavior of Muhammad. Now, we have groups today that are doing that. Boko Haram in Africa and ISIS. The leader of ISIS has a doctorate in Islamic doctrine. So he knows what Muhammad did and what Islam teaches. And he perfectly follows the teachings of Islam. For example, Boko Haram went into a Christian school, and I think the numbers were they slaughtered something like 300 Christian boys and took about 300 Christian girls as sex slaves. Now, those are actions that Muhammad would have done. That is consistent with Islam. So we have to understand that in Islam, things that in other religions and in other societies would be considered immoral or illegal are sacred and holy duties under Islam. One of the key doctrines of Islam is the doctrine of taqiyya. Taqiyya is sacred deception. And Muhammad taught that it is a sacred and holy duty for Muslims to always lie to other people. For example, I've talked with Muslims and they say, you know, we worship the same God. Matter of fact, I had a Muslim tell me that before he became a Muslim, he was a Palestinian, so he was born Muslim. But he said before he became Muslim, he had to first become Jewish and then become Christian and then take the final step. And he told me that I could take the final step and become a Muslim. But anyway, that's just a lie. None of that is true. But Muslims will always lie to you because it's their duty to lie. Now, Islam taught that Muhammad was a perfect man. Now, Muhammad raped little girls. So if Muhammad raped little girls, and you may not believe he did that, but the Quran, the Sirah, and the Hadith teach that he did that. So Muslims believe that he did that. So they believe it's their duty to rape little girls. As a matter of fact, today Sweden has become the rape capital of the world. And it's because they've taken in many Islamic immigrants, and they believe it's their duty to rape non-Muslim women. So that's what's going on not only in Sweden, but in France and Germany and all over Europe today. Now, I find people tell me, well, not all Muslims believe that. Many Muslims are peaceful people. And that may or may not be true. But if they are, they're not following the teachings and practices of Muhammad, the prophet, the final prophet of Islam. So if they're not doing it, it's because they don't have the power to do it, or because they're engaging in taqiyya, because it is what Islam has taught for 1400 years and what it has practiced whenever it's had the power to practice that. So what we see happening in Islamic countries today to non-Muslims, for example, Christian girls under the control of ISIS, if they refuse to deny Christ, they are gang raped for days on end, and then they're tortured to death by being crucified. And that's Islam. That's true and accurate Islam. It's coming to the United States. It's already in Europe. So we need to wake up and find out, is that the future we want for our children and grandchildren? If it's not, we need to do something about that. Now, you may notice that all Muslim nations are basically hellholes. Well, they're hellholes because that's what Islam creates. It creates hellholes. We look at the rich nations of the world, and we talk mainly about Western civilization. Europe, the United States, Austria, New Zealand, that's Western civilization. Well, what is Western civilization? Western civilization is basically Christian civilization. And what is Christian civilization? It's a civilization that believes that the Ten Commandments are the guide for moral conduct, and that the Ten Commandments should also be the guide for the civil law of the nation. And that is what has made Western civilization prosperous and great. Now, the truth is that the whole rest of the world could be as prosperous and as great as Western civilization is. All the rest of the world has to do is be obedient to the Ten Commandments, use them as the moral guide for society and the backbone of the civil law of the society. Now, a good example of that would be the commandment, don't steal. Now, socialism is based on theft. What is the commandment, thou shalt not steal, all about? Well, what it's about is that a person is entitled to the fruits of his own labor. Now, if a person works hard and is not entitled to keep the fruits of his own labor, pretty soon he's not going to be working hard anymore. And that is why we have poverty and starvation in much of the world, because socialism steals the fruits of people's labor. So they are unwilling to labor. In the old Soviet Union, the workers had a saying. It was, they pretend to pay us and we pretend to work. And that's why the Soviet Union collapsed. It just wasn't productive because the government stole the fruits of people's labor. Another example of that we can see today, Venezuela, one of the richest nations in all of South America. They have abundant natural resources, oil revenue and oil resources. And today, most Venezuelans are starving to death. Now that's one of the blessings of socialism. So that's what's going on there. Now you may look at Western leaders like Angela Merkel and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and you can see that they want their nations to be Islamic nations. And you might think, why? Why on earth would these leaders favor Islam? Well, it's because they are socialist. And years ago, I used to go to the university and I met with a group of Muslims and we just sit around and talk. I like talking to people from other countries. And I remember that one of them one time said that he was a Marxist. And I said, wait a minute. I said, that doesn't make sense. I said, you believe in a God and Marxism is atheistic. So Islam cannot accept Marxism. And he says, oh, that God thing, that's just one minor difference. He said, other than that, Islam and Marxism are virtually identical. And they really are. You know, if you look at it, they're both ideologies that want to spread their ideology by warfare, by terror. And they both want to conquer the world. And they both believe that there should be a strong leader that is in control of everything and everybody else should be identical. And so Islam and socialism, communism, are really the same thing. And that's why these socialistic leaders like Angela Merkel, like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they all favor Islam because Islam is socialism. And another thing about Islam, I tell people that Hillary Clinton's a Muslim, and they go, whoa, are you crazy? You know, what are you talking about? Well, now think about it. Muhammad thought he had a right to take whatever he wanted from anybody he wanted to take it from by force. He felt he had a right to rape any woman he wanted to rape, to steal anybody's property that he wanted to steal, to kill anybody he wanted to kill. He had a right to do anything in order to gain more power. Well, how is that different from Hillary Clinton? It's really not. It's identical. So in philosophy of life, Muhammad and Hillary Clinton are pretty much the same thing. So that's why I say Hillary Clinton's a Muslim. And that's why she favors Islam. Now, you know, we see children all over the world today starving to death. Every day, thousands of children will die of starvation. Is that really necessary? Well, no, it's not. But it's not happening in countries that honor God's law, countries that honor the commandment, thou shalt not steal. Where we see it happening is in countries that favor socialism. Now, our news media is not going to tell us that, and our schools are certainly not teaching our children that. They teach our children that socialism's wonderful. But there's not a single example of that, of successful socialism, anywhere in history, anywhere in the world. It's always been a failure. And it's because socialism denies God's command against theft. Now, you might be wondering, well, how does Donald Trump figure into all of this? Well, the socialist elite of the world, the people that want the world to be a one-world socialistic government, hate Donald Trump. Now, why is that? Because he favors free enterprise. He wants to make America great again, and he knows socialism won't do that. So he is opposed to socialism. But you know, you really have to understand who's promoting socialism worldwide and what they have to gain by it. Now, to understand the history of socialism, you have to understand the history of the Rothschild family and banking. Who are the Rothschilds? Well, they claim to be Jews. I don't particularly believe they are, but that's what they claim. And because they claim to be Jews, if you criticize them, you are said to be anti-Semitic because you are criticizing people that belong to the most persecuted group on earth. Well, now that's basically their cover. But who are the Rothschilds? They're international bankers. They create the money supplies of the nations of the earth. They create the money out of nothing at no expense, loan it into existence, and then the people of the nations are taxed to pay interest on that money that was created out of nothing at no expense. Now, the Rothschilds, through one of their agents by the name of Jacob Schiff, a banker in New York, financed the Bolshevik or communist revolution in Russia and had the Tsar and his whole family killed and put Russia into 100 years of communist hell. Now, Russia has rejected that today, and most Americans don't even know that Russia is not a communist country today. But the main mouthpiece for the Rothschild family today is a man by the name of George Soros. If you hear what George Soros is promoting and what George Soros wants, you can be sure that that's what the Rothschilds want. Because George Soros wouldn't have any wealth unless the Rothschilds allowed him to have that. So he is their front man, their mouthpiece. Now, what is their goal? Their goal is that all the people of the earth be their slaves. They want to significantly reduce the population of the earth, and they want no one on earth except for themselves to have any power or wealth. So their goal is not to raise the standard of living and the wealth and the independence of people, but to lower it. And the United States is their greatest obstacle to that, and Donald Trump is certainly the one man that is their greatest obstacle. So they are seeking to destroy him. Now, I'm going to end this video with that, but I've attached some other things to this. I've got a video titled Money in Under 10 Minutes, and I explain how our money system works. It basically is a Babylonian system, and that's where it comes from. Also, I've got a video on Islamic doctrine, and also I've attached a written essay on Islamic doctrine, and at the end of that essay is documentation of everything I say in the essay. Now, people say, you say these things about Islam, but can you prove it? I prove it. I show you the documentation from Islamic sources. And then I've included an essay I call The Christian History of Russia. And it explains why today Russia should be America's greatest ally. And it's because Russia today is a Christian nation that is seeking to be a free enterprise nation. Now, they're stumbling around and fumbling around with that because Russia has never known freedom. They went straight from serfdom to communism. So the Russian people have never known freedom. But under Putin, who has, by the way, a degree in free market economics, they are trying to develop a free market economy. So anyway, if you understand those things, it helps you understand what's going on in the world today. But if you get all your news from the ABC alphabet networks, you're never going to understand what's going on in the world. I've written a book. I'm an attorney, and the name of the book is titled God's Law, the Only Political Solution. And I believe that if a nation follows the 10 Commandments, that nation will prosper. And that's why the United States and Western Europe has prospered, and it's why we are now losing our prosperity because we're no longer obeying those commandments. My name is Charles Fuqua. I thank you for listening.